You can't come to Mom's wedding looking like that, my sister Amanda sneered, eyeing my simple blazer and jeans. This is a high-class event, not some corner store opening. Her perfectly manicured fingers tapped against her designer purse, each tap like a hammer driving home how different we were. I stood in her luxury apartment's doorway, the invitation clutched in my hand. The same invitation that had arrived at my small studio apartment last week, gold-edged and elegant, announcing our mother's wedding to James Wilson, CEO of Wilson Technologies. These are new clothes, Amanda, I said quietly, trying to keep my voice steady. I bought them specifically for the wedding. She laughed, that sharp, cruel laugh I'd grown too familiar with over the years. From where? Target? This is a Fortune 500 CEO's wedding. Do you even understand what that means? I understood perfectly. I understood more than she could possibly know, but I kept that knowledge locked behind my calm expression. Mom invited me, I said simply. Mom was being nice, Amanda said, rolling her eyes. Like always. Someone has to protect the family's reputation. She stepped closer, her designer perfume suffocating. Listen, Emily, I'm doing you a favor. You'll be completely out of place there. All those executives, business leaders, people who matter. The irony of her words almost made me smile. Almost. I want to be there for Mom, I insisted, though I knew it was pointless. Amanda had always been the gatekeeper of our family's image, especially since Mom started dating James 2 years ago. Mom doesn't need you there, she said coldly. She has me. The daughter who actually made something of herself. Not the one who, she gestured vaguely at my appearance, works at whatever dead-end job you're at this month. If only she knew that my dead-end job was actually running half of Wilson Technologies' international operations under a different aim. That James hadn't just hired me 3 years ago, he'd made me his protege, his successor. That while Amanda flaunted her mid-level marketing position at the company, I was the one making the decisions that determined its future. But she didn't know, none of them did. When I'd apply for the job, I used my father's last name, Parker instead of Mitchell. James had recognized my talent immediately, and I asked him to keep my identity private. I wanted to succeed on my own merits, not because I was dating the boss's daughter. Amanda, I tried one last time. Please, she's our mother. Exactly, she snapped. Our mother, who's finally marrying someone important, someone whose world you don't belong in. She pulled out her phone. I'm calling security. I've already told them not to let you in tomorrow. Don't embarrass yourself by trying. I watched her dial, my heart pounding not with shame or hurt, but with a strange sense of anticipation. Tomorrow would certainly be interesting. Hello. Yes, this is Amanda Mitchell. I need to confirm something about tomorrow's security detail. She turned away, speaking in that authoritative voice she used to make herself feel important. I left without another word. In my car, not the luxury vehicle I could easily afford, but a modest Honda, I pulled out my phone and called James. Everything okay, he answered immediately. Amanda just banned me from the wedding, I said, unable to keep the amusement from my voice. He was silent for a moment and sighed. I told Catherine we should have been honest from the beginning. No, I said firmly, Mom needed to make this decision without complications. And honestly, watching Amanda play corporate princess while having no idea who really runs things, it's been enlightening. Emily, his voice softened. You're my daughter too now, or will be tomorrow. You shouldn't have to hide who you are. Tomorrow, I promised. Tomorrow they'll all know. After hanging up, I drove home to my small studio apartment. Another choice that baffled my family. Why live here when I could afford so much more? But this place reminded me of where I started, of the determination that got me here. I walked past the barely functional elevator to the stairs, remembering how just 5 years ago I really was struggling. Fresh out of business school, rejected from countless jobs because I lacked connections. Amanda had loved that part, constantly comparing her fast-track career, helped by Mom's relationship with James, to my apparent failures. Opening my apartment door, I looked around at the modest space. A small bed in one corner, a desk cluttered with work documents in another. The only luxury was my laptop, top of the line because it contained billion-dollar decisions. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Amanda told me you're not coming tomorrow. Please don't make things difficult. I stared at the message, feeling that familiar ache. Mom had always taken the easy route, letting Amanda's dominance go unchallenged. Even now, she assumed I was the problem. Not responding, I walked to my closet and pulled out the garment bag I picked up last week. Inside wasn't the Target outfit Amanda had sneered at, but a hand-tailored suit from Milan that cost more than her monthly salary. I planned to change at the venue anyway, knowing Amanda would try something like this. Another buzz. Amanda, security has your picture. Don't embarrass us by making a scene. I smiled, thinking of the security team, my security team, hired and managed by my department. They knew exactly who I was, and tomorrow they would follow my orders, not hers. Laying out the suit, I thought about James's earlier words. He'd wanted to tell them months ago, when he'd officially named me as his successor. But I'd asked him to wait. I needed to see who my family really was, how they acted when they thought I had nothing. The results had been exactly what I'd expected. Amanda, drunk on her minimal power, treating me like dirt. Mom, choosing the path of least resistance. The rest of the family, following Amanda's lead in dismissing the poor relation. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Lisa, my assistant, though Amanda thought she was James's secretary. Everything is set for tomorrow. Car will pick you up at 10. Tomorrow. I traced the elegant lines of my suit, thinking of Amanda's face when she realized who really controlled her precious career. Of Mom's expression when she understood just how wrong she'd been. I should have felt guilty about planning to upstage Mom's wedding. But James had actually suggested it, knowing it was time for the truth to come out. Let them see who you really are, he'd said. Let them understand what they've done. Sitting on my small bed, I pulled out my laptop and opened the company files. Amanda's department's budget request was still pending. She'd been pushing for an increase, dropping hints to James about her essential role in the company. I opened the file and made a few adjustments. By Monday, her department would be restructured, her position redundant. Not out of spite, but because her department's performance didn't justify its expenses, a decision I would have made regardless of our relationship. A knock at my door startled me. Through the peephole, I saw Mom standing there, looking uncomfortable in my shabby hallway. I opened the door. Mom? Emily, she wrung her hands. Can I come in? I stepped aside, watching her face as she took in my small apartment. The same expression of embarrassed disappointment I'd seen so many times. Honey, she started, sitting gingerly on my only chair. I know you're hurt about tomorrow, but Amanda's right. This wedding, it's very important. James's whole business circle will be there. I know, I said quietly. Then you understand why it might be better if he don't come. She couldn't even meet my eyes. Just until you're more established. I wanted to laugh at the irony. I was more established than anyone who would be at that wedding, except James himself. Mom, I said carefully, do you actually agree with Amanda, or are you just trying to keep the peace? She flinched. Emily, please. You know how Amanda gets. And this means so much to her, being part of James's world. And what about your world, Mom? What about what you want? She stood up abruptly. What I want is a drama-free wedding. Please, Emily, just let it go this time. As she hurried out, I felt a strange mix of sadness and determination. Tomorrow wouldn't just expose Amanda's behavior, it would force Mom to finally face her own role in all this. I spent the rest of the evening reviewing company documents, preparing for Monday's announcements. Not just Amanda's department restructuring, but several major changes I'd been planning for months. Changes that would have happened regardless of personal drama, but now carried an extra weight of revelation. At midnight, my phone lit up with a final text from Amanda. Don't even think about trying anything tomorrow. Security will remove you immediately. I turned off my phone without responding and went to bed, thinking about how tomorrow would change everything. Not just the wedding, but the careful facade I'd built over the years. The truth about who really ran Wilson Technologies, who really made the decisions that Amanda bragged about implementing. As I drifted off to sleep, I thought about James's words from months ago, when he first suggested revealing my role at the wedding. They need to understand, he'd said, that success isn't about appearances or connections. It's about ability, dedication, and character. Everything you have that Amanda lacks. Tomorrow they would understand. Tomorrow everything would change. And as I finally fell asleep, I smiled, thinking of Amanda's face when she realized that the sister she'd banned from the wedding wasn't just a guest. She was the boss. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear. I watched from my window as Lisa pulled up in a nondescript black car, not the company's usual luxury vehicles. One last piece of misdirection before everything changed. "Good morning, Miss Parker," she said with a knowing smile as I got in. We always use my father's surname in public, maintaining the careful separation between my personal and professional lives. "Morning, Lisa. Everything ready?" "Yes, ma'am. Your suit is already at the venue. Security has been briefed." And she glanced at her tablet. "Amanda has called 3 times this morning to confirm that you'll be blocked from entering." I couldn't help but laugh. "How did they respond?" "According to protocol, ma'am. All security measures will be implemented as directed by senior management." Lisa's smile turned slightly wicked. She took that to mean her directions, of course. The venue was a prestigious hotel downtown, its ballroom transformed into a wedding wonderland. As we pulled up to the service entrance, I saw Amanda's distinctive red Tesla parked out front, surrounded by the luxury vehicles of early arriving guests. "Ms. Mitchell has been here since dawn," Lisa reported, personally directing the security team about who to watch for. "She's shown your picture to everyone at least twice." Inside, through the staff corridors, I could hear the bustle of final preparations. Lisa led me to a private room where my suit waited. As I changed, I could hear Amanda's voice carrying through the halls, sharp and demanding. "I don't care what the seating chart says. Those are tech executives. They need to be closer to the front. Move them now." I emerged from the room in my tailored suit, its subtle elegance a far cry from the shabby clothes Amanda had sneered at yesterday. Lisa handed me a tablet showing the security feeds. Amanda was at the main entrance, scrutinizing every arriving guest like a general inspecting troops. "Time to get in position," Lisa said. "James is asking for you." I found him in his dressing room, already in his tuxedo, looking both excited and concerned. "Emily," he hugged me tight. "Are you sure about this? We could still do it another way." "I'm sure," I said firmly. It's time they knew. All of them. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Your mother's been asking about you. Amanda told her you tried to crash the preparation breakfast this morning." "I was in a board meeting," I said dryly, planning Monday's restructuring. "Ah yes, the famous restructuring." He smiled slightly. "Amanda's been telling everyone how she's going to be promoted. She seems to think I'm announcing new positions today." Well, she's half right. I checked my watch. I should go. Need to be in place before the ceremony starts. The next hour passed in a blur of preparation. From my hidden vantage point, I watched guests arrive. Corporate executives, business leaders, all of them knowing me as Emily Parker, the quiet but brilliant COO who ran their contracts and determined their futures, none of them connecting me to the shabby sister Amanda had been warning security about. Then I saw her arrive, my mother, looking beautiful in her wedding dress, but with worry lines creasing her forehead. Amanda hovered beside her, practically glowing with self-importance as she greeted guests. "Look who actually showed up appropriate," I heard Amanda say loudly to our cousin Sarah, both of them resplendent in designer dresses. "Unlike some people who can't take a hint." "I heard about Emily," Sarah replied, her voice carrying clearly through my earpiece. "So embarrassing, trying to come to a wedding like this in off-the-rack clothes. She just doesn't understand our world," Amanda said smugly. "This is business elite, not some casual family dinner. Image is everything." If only they knew how many of their contracts I'd rejected precisely because of that attitude, caring more about image than substance. The ceremony was about to begin when Amanda did one final sweep of the entrance. I watched on the security feed as she gathered the team. "Remember, if my sister shows up, remove her immediately. Don't make a scene, just get her out. She's not welcome here." Finally, everyone took their places. I stood in my designated spot, hidden from the main crowd, watching as James took his position at the altar. The music started, and my mother began her walk down the aisle, Amanda preening beside her as the maid of honor. The ceremony was beautiful, exactly what Mom had wanted. When it came time for the vows, I felt tears in my eyes, not just for the love between her and James, but for the hope that after today, things might finally change. Then came the moment we planned. After the official pronouncement, before the recession, James held up his hand for attention. "Before we continue the celebration," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the ballroom, "there's something important I need to share with all of you, especially my new family." Amanda straightened, her face eager. She thought this was her moment, her big promotion announcement. Over the past 3 years, James continued, Wilson Technologies has undergone a massive transformation. Our international expansion, our technological innovations, our renewed focus on sustainable development, all of this has been guided by one person. Someone who preferred to work quietly, letting their achievements speak for themselves. I stepped out from my hidden position, walking slowly toward the altar. I saw Amanda's face change from confusion to shock to horror as she recognized me, not in the shabby clothes she expected, but in a suit that screamed authority and success. "I'd like you all to meet Emily Parker," James said, extending his hand to me. Or, as she's known to her family, Emily Mitchell. My COO, my successor, and now my daughter. The silence was deafening. I looked at Mom, saw the color drain from her face as understanding dawned. Looked at Amanda, who seemed to be having trouble breathing as she realized who really controlled her precious career. Emily has been the driving force behind our company's recent success, James continued. She's not just my employee or my new daughter. She's the future of Wilson Technologies. The applause that followed was genuine from the business leaders who knew my work, confused from the family members who were struggling to reconcile this revelation with their previous assumptions. Amanda's face had gone from red to white to green. She swayed slightly, grabbing a nearby chair for support as she realized that all her boasting, all her condescension, had been directed at her own boss. Now, James smiled. Let's celebrate not just my marriage to Catherine, but also the official announcement of Emily Parker Mitchell as the next CEO of Wilson Technologies. As the crowd applauded again, I finally let myself smile. Not a smile of triumph or revenge, but of relief. Finally, the truth was out. Finally, they knew who I really was. And looking at Amanda's face, I knew this was just the beginning of the changes to come. The reception that followed was a study in shifting dynamics. I watched from my seat at the main table as the news rippled through the crowd, changing expressions and allegiances in its wake. Business leaders who had previously followed Amanda's lead in ignoring me now hovered nearby, hoping for a moment of my attention. Family members who had smirked at my shabby appearance were suddenly studying my designer suit with new eyes. But it was Amanda's reaction that truly captured the upheaval. She sat at the far end of the head table, barely touching her food, her perfectly made-up face locked in an expression of stunned disbelief. Every few minutes she would glance at me, then quickly look away, as if hoping this was all a bad dream. Mom kept shooting nervous looks between us, clearly uncertain how to handle this new reality. James squeezed my hand under the table, a quiet gesture of support. "Perhaps," he murmured, "it's time to have that conversation." I nodded, standing up. "Amanda?" I said, my voice carrying just far enough to reach her. "Could we speak privately?" She flinched as if I'd slapped her, but years of social training kicked in. She couldn't refuse a direct request from her boss, even if that boss was her supposedly shabby sister. She stood smoothing her dress with trembling hands. I led her to a private balcony overlooking a hotel's garden. For a moment, we both stood there in silence, the sounds of the reception muted behind us. "How?" she finally whispered. "How long have you been?" 3 years, I said quietly. I was hired right after James and Mom started dating. He didn't know I was her daughter at first. I used Dad's last name on my application. But you live in that tiny apartment," she sputtered. "You wear normal clothes. You don't even have a nice car." "Because I don't measure success by what I own, Amanda." I turned to face her. "I measure it by what I achieve." All this time, her voice cracked. "All those times I bragged about my position, about my influence in the company. You were actually bragging to the person who signs your performance reviews," I finished. "The person who's been watching you take credit for other people's work, inflate your department's achievements, and use your connection to James to intimidate your colleagues." She paled. "Are you going to fire me?" "No," I said, watching her shoulders sag in relief before I continued. "But your department is being restructured. Starting Monday, you'll be reporting to marketing development 3 levels below your current position." "You can't do that," she burst out, then immediately caught herself, remembering who she was talking to. "I can, and I am. Not because you're my sister, but because your department's performance doesn't justify its current budget or structure. This would be happening regardless of our relationship." She gripped the balcony railing, knuckles white. "So this is revenge. For all the times This is business." I cut her off. But if you want to talk about personal matters, yes, we should discuss how you've treated me, how you tried to ban me from my own mother's wedding, how you've spent years mocking and belittling me while living off the success of projects I created." Tears started rolling down her cheeks, smearing her perfect makeup. "I didn't know." "Would it have been different if you had known?" I asked quietly. "Would you have treated me better if you'd known I had power over you?" "Because that's the real problem, Amanda. You think status is everything. You think money and position give you the right to treat people as beneath you." She said nothing, probably because we both knew the answer. "Starting Monday," I continued, "you'll have a chance to prove whether you can succeed on your own merits. No special treatment, no leveraging family connections. Just your work, your actual abilities." "And if I refuse," she whispered, "then you're welcome to seek employment elsewhere. Though I should mention that most of our competitors know me as Emily Parker, and they know my opinion carries weight in the industry." The full impact of her new reality seemed to hit her then. She slumped against the railing, all her carefully constructed superiority crumbling. "The apartment," she said suddenly. "The clothes, the car, why live like that when you could afford so much more?" I smiled slightly, because I wanted to succeed on my own terms, because I wanted to know who I really was without the trappings of wealth, and because I looked at her directly. I wanted to see who my family really was, how they treated someone they thought had nothing to offer. The silence that followed was heavy with understanding. Amanda had failed that test spectacularly, and she knew it. "Mom," she finally said. "Does she know?" "About everything." "She's about to," I replied, nodding toward the door where our mother stood, hesitating to join us. "Mom," I called softly, "come join your daughters." She stepped onto the balcony, looking between us uncertainly. The strong, successful woman who had captivated James now seemed small, caught between her two warring children. "I think," I said gently, "it's time we had an honest conversation about the past few years. About choices, consequences, and the kind of family we want to be going forward." And as the sun set over the garden below, casting long shadows across the balcony, we began the difficult process of rebuilding what years of pretense and prejudice had torn apart. 5 months have passed since the wedding, and everything has changed. The restructuring at Wilson Technologies went exactly as planned, professionally executed, based purely on performance metrics and business needs. Amanda was demoted, not because of our personal history, but because that's what the numbers demanded. The first few weeks were rough. Amanda struggled to adjust to her new role and status. No more corner office, no more executive privileges. She had to earn everything now, just like everyone else. There were tears, arguments, even a threat to quit. But eventually, something unexpected happened. She started to change. I noticed it first in the weekly reports. Her work quality improved. She began contributing actual ideas instead of just taking credit for others' work. Last week, she even stayed late to help her team complete a project, something the old Amanda would never have done. Mom noticed the change too. At our monthly family dinners, now held at my real home, a modest but comfortable house in a quiet neighborhood, she mentioned how different Amanda seemed. "She's growing up," I said simply, passing Mom the salad bowl. "Sometimes people need to lose everything to understand what really matters." Mom nodded, her own journey of understanding evident in her eyes. Since the wedding, our relationship had undergone its own transformation. The initial shock of learning about my role at Wilson Technologies had given way to a deeper appreciation of who I really was, not just what I had achieved. "I was wrong," she said one evening, helping me with the dishes. "I let Amanda's behavior go unchecked for so long. I thought I was keeping the peace, but I was just enabling her." "We all had our parts to play," I replied. "But that's the past." James, for his part, has been an incredible support through all of this. He understood why I needed to maintain my separate identity for so long, and why the revelation had to happen the way it did. As both my stepfather and my mentor, he's helped me navigate the complex waters of mixing family and business. The biggest surprise came last week. I was working late in my office, the same office I've had for years, no corner suite for me, when Amanda knocked on my door. "Do you have a minute?" she asked, looking more humble than I'd ever seen her. I gestured to the chair across from my desk, the same chair where she'd once sat during her demotion meeting, crying and accusing me of betrayal. I've been thinking, she said, fiddling with her sleeve, about everything. About how I treated you, about who I was trying to be. She took a deep breath. I was awful, not just to you, but to everyone. I thought success meant making others feel small. I stayed silent, letting her continue. But watching you these past months, seeing how you lead, how you treat people, I finally understand what real success looks like. She met my eyes. I'm sorry, Emily, not because you're my boss, but because you're my sister, and I lost sight of what that means. It was the apology I'd been waiting for, not prompted by fear or advantage, but by genuine understanding. Thank you, I said simply. There's more, she continued. I'd like to transfer to our community outreach division. The pay is less than what I'm making now, but I think I could do some good there. Actually help people instead of just climbing over them. I studied her face, seeing sincerity where there used to be only calculation. Are you sure? It's entry-level work. I'm sure, she nodded. I need to start over. Do things right this time. I approved her transfer that afternoon. Today, sitting in my office, looking out over the city, I think about how far we've all come. Mom and James are happy, their relationship stronger now that all the secrets are out. Amanda is flourishing in her new role, her natural leadership skills finally being used to lift others up instead of push them down. My phone buzzes, a text from Amanda. Lunch today? My treat from my much smaller salary. I smile, typing back. Only if you let me wear my shabby clothes. Her response comes quickly. As long as you don't make me valet park your Honda. The ability to joke about the past is perhaps the biggest sign of how much has changed. We're not perfect, no family is, but we're better. More honest, more real. I stand up, gathering my things for lunch. My shabby blazer hangs on the back of my chair, the same one Amanda once sneered at. I put it on, a reminder of who I am and why I chose this path. Success isn't about appearances or power. It's about staying true to yourself. About lifting others up instead of pushing them down. Sometimes the people who need that lesson the most are the ones closest to us. As I head out to meet my sister, I pass the plaque on my wall. Emily Parker Mitchell, Chief Executive Officer. Below it, in smaller letters, is the company's new motto, one I insisted on after taking over. Success is not what you have, but who you are. Amanda is waiting in the lobby, dressed simply now, no more designer labels. She smiles when she sees me, a real smile, not the artificial one she used to wear. Ready for lunch, boss? She asks, then corrects herself. I mean sis. Both, I reply, linking my arm through hers. Always both. And together, we walk out into the sunshine. Two sisters who finally understand that true wealth isn't measured in dollars or titles, but in the strength of the bonds we build and the lives we touch.